Buenas noches, Miami. Welcome to another episode of the Goon Squad. We have today our very special guest. Well, first and foremost, let me welcome Neal back on, brother. Good to have you back, man. He's been gone for a few weeks.
Talk to Miami Heat. Week's been good, Can't complain.
And we have a very special guest today, Nando Diaz. You can follow him at Sports Vibe 305, Miami Sports Vibes. It's a pleasure to have you, bro. You seem right now like the original Sportron right there with that hat, with that gear. It brings back good memories. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to talking some Heat, man. Give me something positive to talk about, man. Because a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, I was thinking we were gonna land Kevin Durant, and here we are today. But thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Hey, it's a pleasure. But now that you mentioned that, we'll start it off just right there. It's been noted. Neal's been here for quite a few of my rants in regards to the Heat. I'm a big believer in the squad that we have. Obviously, when a generational player, like we said before, becomes available, you do everything possible to acquire him. You're still in the game. You don't pin yourself in a situation financially where you can't make a play for him. We saw what happened. We saw how it turned out. You can kind of see the writing on the wall as it started progressing. There was no real traction. There was no leverage from either side. So I'll take your stand first, and then Neal, if you can follow back. We didn't get Durant. That was a big fish. That was a whale that we were going for. Secondary right now, I'll mention, and we'll talk about it later, the hero extension still hasn't been signed. So obviously there's some due diligence being done in regards to possibly Donovan Mitchell. What is your take right now, the roster as it stands today, going into the East, the hierarchy of the East? Let me know how you feel with what we have right now, present day.
To be honest with you, man, I don't know if I'm just, so used to getting a big whale, expecting so much from Pat Riley. Maybe that's just the standard, but to me, I'm not happy, man. I mean, I'm not happy whatsoever. I was expecting landing a guy like Kevin Durant, and if not, you're going to fall back on Donovan Mitchell. And the fact that it hasn't happened yet, and you got to think about it. We lost PJ Tucker. All right. So this team, you have the team as is minus PJ Tucker. Okay. We didn't even get to the finals. We were lacking so many things with PJ Tucker. I mean, it felt like time and time again, you're just looking at Jimmy Butler being the only guy scoring the freaking ball. So you mean to tell me that we're coming back with this team minus PJ Tucker and expect me to be optimistic? I mean, that's not going to cut it for me, honestly. I feel like we're at best fourth best team in the Eastern Conference, maybe fifth. I mean, obviously, there's still room, though, for us to improve. I think Pat Riley is going to do something. I mean, he has to get it done. You can't go into this season with this same team as is after losing PJ Tucker. I mean, that's how I feel, but I would love to hear your guys' take on that.
Neal, the floor is yours, brother.
Losing KD was hard. It was hard because I agree with Nando. Like, I had a lot of faith in the front office. It seemed like they were eager and aggressive, and maybe that's all it really was, that it seemed that way. Because I have this feeling, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have this feeling that if we really, put our best package out there, we could have gotten Kevin Durant. And we just didn't. And, that was a bit disappointing. We're not going to get Donovan Mitchell. I don't see anything from Utah that suggests that they're even willing to trade him. And that hurts knowing that. And we lost PJ Tucker, who was invaluable to this team. The way this team won games relied on PJ Tucker being in the starting lineup and at the end of game lineups. And can Victor Oladipo fill that spot? I don't know. That's what it's going to be, right? Is there a free agent out there that is going to fill PJ Tucker's shoes? No, I don't think so. I just went through the list. I didn't see anybody, And I think our front office is hoping that Victor Oladipo becomes the old Victor Oladipo and plays defense, better defense than he did. And maybe that's possible, but here we're talking about, what if? And I hate talking about what if, especially when I'm looking at Boston, who got better, and Milwaukee, who is the same juggernaut in the East. I mean, defensively, offensively, it's really hard for me to say that we could. And then here's the other thing. It's Brooklyn. Like, I get that
Brooklyn's going to surprise us. Yeah.
in Brooklyn last year, but they got Kevin Durant back. And apparently he's happy. And who knows what happens with Kyrie Irving? I'm now expecting Kyrie Irving to just ball out again. You know, and if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving ball out the way they were supposed to last year, that's 3 teams in the East that I think are better than us. And so how do we get to the Eastern Conference Finals and we have to play one of them in a 7-game series? And I mean, are we going to be competitive? Sure, we're going to be competitive. But the one thing that I like about the Miami Heat versus, you know, the Miami Dolphins, you know, Florida Panthers, etc., is that competitive isn't good enough. It's winning championships.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Heat are about. And they've earned that standard. And I don't think they can meet that standard with the team they have. And I want to touch on Tyler Hero not receiving an extension. I mean, that is interesting. I'll say that. Maybe it is our front office looking at Donovan Mitchell. But, I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, and Bam is a better team than Tyler Hero, Bam, and Jimmy Butler. It is a better team for sure. But getting 50 points a game is playing defense. So I'll say that he's playing better defense than Tyler Hero because he's going to score more, right? Let's be honest. But I mean, is even that good enough to beat Brooklyn, Boston, and Milwaukee? I don't know the answer to that. And I'm not even convinced we're going to get Donovan. I just don't see it happening. Not when Utah's in a complete rebuild mode and there are tons of teams you can offer like 1 million picks, you know, that we just don't have. I mean, does Utah really, do they want Tyler Hero? Because I like Tyler Hero, you know, 6th man of the year. I like that. But I've never seen Tyler Hero be a consistent starter. And maybe that's the trepidation from the Heat not wanting to extend him. They're kind of like, well, I mean, are we really going to sign someone to the max who's a 6th man? Well, I don't know if they want to do that. And I don't know if I would want them to do that, you know? But Alex, let's see what you have to say, man.
Well, your answer to that, Neal, because I understand, for example, Nando's point, your point. Your answer to that with the Tyler Hero, he really hasn't, after his rookie year, his 2nd year in the league, he became the starter. That was kind of like a makeshift lineup. This lineup now is better suited for him to start because you're kind of protecting his defensive liability per se. Because I've said it, he's a great team defender. And what I'm impressed, when Justin was here on a few weeks ago, he talked about the core build for Tyler. A lot of people were looking at muscle build, upper body strength, and what he told me was like, I'm focusing on his trainer needs to focus on his core. He needs to strengthen his legs, hips, everything. And that's what makes a better defender because Tyler Hero was weak in those areas. That's why he was being pushed around. I have no concern whatsoever. He's a bucket getter. He can create off the dribble. He can shoot. He's a pure shooter. He's a pure scorer. So I have no issue with that. My holdup with his extension possibly, I think really the only explanation, it's they are exhausting all options if he's going to be moved, if he's going to be included in any trades. Because once you sign that deal, that rookie extension, he's not going to get the full max. His range is going to be 115, 120, 125. You're probably pushing you got some incentives there. But when it comes down to signing it, once he signed it, then it becomes a poison pill. Now you got to start matching more salaries. So until we know for sure, once he signs that extension, we know this is the roster. Officially, we're coming back. Right now, it's trending in that direction. And to be honest with you, I might be a few and far in between. But I really have no issue with it because I see, and I've said it before on the other show, Nando, I believe that we're going to have a change in offensive philosophy. You're not going to see the same team. Even in defense also, you're going to have more drop coverage. So that way you ease, especially if Omer is part of the rotation. And I do believe he's going to play some minutes with Bam. I don't think he might start with Bam. I still believe in the hybrid lineup, even Butler at the 4. If you have a free agent, which I'm going to touch on now, available options, veteran options, because I brought up last show Jovic. I'm really high on Jovic. We're all high on Jovic. He's very young, but if you're going to use him, if he's going to be part of the rotation, I think the best option is to actually start him at the 4. Throw him out there. He's used to playing with this extreme competition, and obviously in Europe, much stronger at that age than here. And he will be protected once again. The same concept of hero with a Butler, with a Bam, with a Cow, and I believe that is an even keel lineup. You have all points of attacks. You got shooting, you got depth, you got rebounding. You're a little bit undersized, but that's when with backups you come with Omer. You have possibly Strus, obviously. Robinson is the intriguing part because most likely of everyone, I think it's a successful offseason if they move on for Robinson if they're not going to use him as part of the rotation. But he might be moved in the trade deadline. So there's a bunch of options. But secondary options now, though, that you can sign right now off the street to possibly play the stretch 4. In my mind, I have the Carmelo Anthony. I know he's a little older. People don't talk about him. People sometimes overreact when I say it. I'm like, but if you really think about it, he's a very decent rebounder, solid defender, solid, not good, not great, but solid team defense. He's in shape, and he's a pure scorer. He gives you the depth that you need in the starting lineup, the range that you need, and you're going to open up lanes for Bam. Even though Bam is going to be more creating, Hero's going to be creating. Oladipo off the bench is going to come as a killer. He's going to come and terrorize your second units with Vincent. Watch the backcourt of Vincent and Oladipo. They're going to cause havoc. And you might, I believe, Oladipo's going to be more on ball. Vincent is kind of like your spot-up shooter, your 2 guard. But Nando, in your aspect, in your perspective, any options, any secondary options, forget about the Mitchell trade. This is our team going forward. What are your secondary options that you would see? Because obviously, we got one roster spot left. Who would you go with if you want to fill the stretch 4 from the outside?
All right. Well, looking at the free agent market now, it's really thin. It's really dicey, but I do love that Carmelo Anthony piece that you discussed. I mean, Carmelo Anthony, honestly, I'm all for that. The reason why, the dude's a pro's pro. He's a veteran in this league. He's a bucket getter. What did we need in the playoffs? How many fans were complaining about who is going to help Jimmy score the ball? You going to tell me Carmelo couldn't get you some buckets there? How many open threes did we miss? Melo can knock them down. Melo can post up. He can get to the hole. He's tough. Like you said, rebounding. How many times does Carmelo Anthony get an offensive rebound, pump fake a couple times, and get to the free throw line? That's all things that this Miami Heat team could have used, especially coming off the bench. You can spot start him at the 4. You can have him come off the bench, which he showed last season that he can do. A veteran. He works hard. He's in shape. He would embrace Heat culture. Pat Riley has shown interest before in years prior. I totally like the idea of Carmelo Anthony being a Miami Heat, but I just don't see it happening. For some reason, I don't see it happening, but I sure hope that they do so. Another name that I personally love, let's say if we don't go in the free agent market and we look to do it via trade, all right, throw Donovan Mitchell out the window. Let's not even throw out John Collins in there. Let's say that's a big fish. Let's not aim that high, but somebody in that mid tier that I think is realistic to get. I'm looking at a guy like Harrison Barnes, because Harrison Barnes is another guy that could play the 4. He can defend, he can post up, do a lot of those things that Carmelo Anthony can do, but he can also play defense, and he's also a better team player. Obviously, I don't want to knock on Melo too much, but he can be a little selfish at times. At least Harrison Barnes has that IQ that can fit right in the Heat system. So that would be my target if I'm going to look for something realistic that's not a Donovan Mitchell, maybe moving Duncan and something else. I think Harrison Barnes is obviously gettable from Sacramento, but I do like that Carmelo Anthony take by you. That's a good one.
Hey, before Neal, I go to you. I want to thank everybody that's tuning in. Like, subscribe, share. We appreciate all the love. And once again, I always tell all the guests and all the viewers, anything you want us to talk about, even mid-show, send it in. And look, Nando, actually, I'll bring it up, Neal, before I go back to you. I brought it up a little while ago. Who's an unknown factor going into next year that casual fans should look out for on the Heat? There you see, you can throw whatever you want there. Anybody that we can possibly sign, anybody that we currently have on the roster. I'll give it to you, and then I'm going to go to Neal.
Well, I think the X factor of this team is it's gonna be a guy that I think we're gonna be relying on heavily. I'm expecting if this team is as is, I'm expecting Tyler Hero to be the starting 2 guard. Therefore, you need some offensive firepower off the bench, and I think the X factor for this team to go far is Victor Oladipo. You got him coming off the injury. This time, he has a full training camp with his guys. He's fully healthy. He has years under his belt under this Miami Heat system. We're gonna be relying on him definitely heavily. So he can play offense, he can play defense. I think as far as Victor Oladipo can take this bench unit is as far as the Heat for to have a possible chance for contending for a title. So I throw Victor Oladipo for that answer.
That's perfect, man. Neal, what are your thoughts, brother?
I mean, I definitely agree that if Tyler, if we go with this roster, Tyler is going to be our 2 guard, and that means we're definitely going to need some help off the bench. I'd like to see Max Strus take a step forward. I really would. I think Strus, that they really trust him on the team, and we're really going to. And he has the ability to get buckets too. And I actually like his defense, and I think he can take another step defensively and really be a solid X factor that we need. I do want to touch on Tyler Hero a little bit, just because last season Hero, also kind of got in shape, and he put on some muscle. His issue is he needs to consistently hold that weight throughout the season. And if he can do that, then sky's the limit for him. I mean, he can play better defense and offense, but I don't know what it was last season, midway through the season, he just stopped. He just let it all go. And by the finals, or by the Eastern Conference Finals, he was back to like rookie year, sophomore year Tyler Hero. Like, I mean, getting pushed around, and then he got hurt, obviously, because, maybe he was trying a little bit too hard to get back in that shape. So I don't know, like, I'm hoping that Tyler Hero makes that. So I'm not a hater on Tyler Hero, but I'm just hesitant on he needs to show it to me. You know what I mean? Because he can't be a turnstile anymore. You know what I mean? Hated watching teams hunt him and Duncan. That was painful. I mean, painful to watch. But as far as a free agent that I would like, I really would like Miles Turner. Or sorry, as a trade option, I really would like Miles Turner. I think that's someone that we could get from Indiana on the cheap. Oh, on the cheap, I mean, picking a player willing to give up. I think that would be solid.
She's thick. She's thick.
So I'm hopeful that maybe the Miles Turner trade is still out there.
And Neal, now that you said that, that's an option. And first, I'll talk with the Hero thing, because that's one thing. Off season, you build muscle. In season, you gotta maintain it. There's no way that it's that I just the holdup to me. Now, aside the contract extension, his game, you see it evolve. You see it getting better every single year. And I believe I was talking about it last year, and I've said it before. This team is built for Tyler Hero to be a flat-out scorer. He's going to lead your team in scoring. Like, he will give you 20 plus every given night. Possibly 25-5. He's a good rebounding guard. That's another thing. He's a magnet for rebounding, even at his height. He's physical, which one of the lineups that I'll throw out there so we can kind of talk about it. I love the Jimmy Butler hybrid lineup, and we've talked about it many times, Nando, here. And I want to get your thoughts on that, because I've talked about it with Neal, with other people. They're going to run at times. I'm not saying it's a starting unit, but they are going to run at times. A lot of Jimmy at the 4, and you're trying to run teams off the court. Like when you're playing bigs like the Celtics or the Bucks, sometimes you're trying to run them off the court. Like, for example, with Giannis, you're always going to have an issue because Giannis is the most athletic freak there is right now in the NBA. You're not going to run Giannis off the court. Like, he's a modern-day physicality of Shaq, but even more skilled than Shaq, even more range than Shaq. So I see the possible 5 best men lineup where you have Lowry, who's is in incredible shape. And if he maintains that as well, Neal, now that you mentioned about the Tyler Hero shape, if Kyle Lowry maintains that shape, especially at that age, he's going to give you consistently. I mean, minutes-wise, I'm pretty sure he'll average around 30. I'm always a big fan of the 10 deep. I like keeping our guys fresh because when you come to playoff time, that's when you need to play your 35-plus minutes. But I have no problem with Kyle Lowry playing between 29, 30 minutes a night. I'm pretty sure it'll be the 30 to 35 range, so I got no problem with that if his body can hold up. So you're going to see some rest days. You're going to see lineup adjustments based on who we play. But the top 5 players possibly at any given moment for the Heat could be Lowry, Hero, Oladipo, Butler, and Bam. That's a 5-man lineup that I believe is probably one of the quickest lineups right now that a big team can face that will make them run off if it's successful. It's undersized, but it is good in rebounding, hustling. Defensively, that's a great team defense right there. Because even if you got Butler banging against 6, 8, and power forwards have become smaller and smaller, not in strength, in height. A lot of teams are playing down. You don't have a lot of teams, like, for example, like Minnesota. When you go against a Minnesota with Rudy Gobert and Anthony Towns, you have to have some size where Omer can come into play, Bam comes into play. But how do you feel, and I'll throw this one out there, even the possibility, if your hybrid lineup starts, you have Strus starting next to Butler, Hero, Lowry, and you got Bam. How do you feel about that starting lineup based on not adding any other pieces? And obviously, the situation with Robinson, how it would play out. Best case scenario, he's able to be moved, even for Miles Turner, Harrison Barnes, like you mentioned, which are all perfect options. Decent contracts, and you're basically salary matching, and you're giving another asset just to make the trade go smooth, obviously, and be accepted. So how do you feel about that hybrid lineup, Nando?
I like the idea of Jimmy at the 4. I'm not gonna lie. That's a good comment right there. I, I'm not gonna lie. I like the idea of Jimmy at the 4, but I definitely don't want to see none of that towards the beginning of the season because I want to see that more late, and maybe in the playoffs. Play around with it, and I think Spoelstra will
Exactly.
play around with it, see what you got, but don't take it out of the bag. Like, keep that in your back pocket for late in the season or playoff time, because I think Jimmy Butler, he's a guy that's shown that he can play any position. I mean, you want him to play point forward, you want him to play the 4, you want him to play the 3. The man just gets it done. He can play up to anybody. I mean, he's not backing down from nobody. It doesn't matter how tall you are, how big you are. So I do like the idea of Jimmy at the 4. That wouldn't be something that I'm throwing out there on a regular basis. But when you talk about having your closing lineup of potentially Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Oladipo, Jimmy, and Bam, I think from a defensive standpoint, that's a lockup lineup. Like, that's just straight up lockdown. But it worries me when it comes to making shots. I think that is not enough shot makers in that lineup. Yeah, you have Tyler Hero, but we've seen how he performs in the playoffs sometimes. Like, he's got to earn us that trust back. Oladipo, he can score, but he's not a reliable scorer. And then Kyle Lowry, are we going to get the good Kyle Lowry that's reliable, or are we going to get that Kyle Lowry that we saw in the Philadelphia series? Because that was just ridiculous. So it all comes down to how our guys are performing. But if I had to just match it up with a lineup with Jimmy at the 4, me personally, I like Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Strus, Jimmy, and Bam, because I'd rather have more shooting out there. I'd rather have a Max Strus who you can kick it out to, a Tyler Hero, and then have Kyle Lowry to be that third option there. But I like my shooters, like having 2 shooters out there if you're gonna put Jimmy at the 4. But Jimmy can adjust to any lineup, and I love the idea of him playing the 4. But you are gonna run into some things when you're playing a team like Minnesota. However, they're in the West, so you probably won't see them until the NBA Finals if both team makes it. Milwaukee, that's a team that always we struggle against because of this Greek freak that he is. We might have to adjust there. But I think, Spoelstra, man. I mean, the dude is a mastermind. He's gonna play around with this stuff. He's gonna know what works best. And that's one thing that I like from being a Heat fan. Like, I trust in whatever Spoelstra do. I normally agree with a lot of things that he does. A lot of fans they're like, oh, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Me personally, I love every decision that Erik Spoelstra makes. That's just me. So I think he'll play around with that, maybe in the preseason. But it seems like a good idea. What about you, Neal?
I mean, for me, I worry about the shooting as well because,
Right.
Victor Oladipo better be able to shoot, because – and here's the thing, like, I think Kyle Lowry will have a better season than last season because I think throughout the whole season and in the playoffs, you saw like half of Kyle Lowry, I mean, defensively and running the point, he was there, which was fine, pushing the pace. But – I mean, he was not an aggressive scorer, which is what I thought we were going to be getting from him, and he just wasn't. And I think we're going to have a more aggressive Kyle Lowry, a more in shape Kyle Lowry, because if not, this fan base would riot, and I mean, that would be terrible. So let's say Kyle Lowry's playing a little bit better. You know, Tyler Hero, I mean, he is a bucket, when he is, engaged. If we have, first half of the season, Tyler Hero, badass. You know what I mean? But I still think we need Victor to be hitting that outside shot, because if we're that small, those big teams are just going to eat us. They are going to destroy us. And that was our problem the year before last, was we were too small. And it was that way last season too. When we played those bigger teams, we were just too small and our shooting wasn't consistent enough to overcome that. So that's kind of still why I'm hoping that we can get a Miles Turner in a trade and plug him at the 5 and put Bam at the 4. Because I think Bam plays better at the 4 than he would at the 5. And then we could have Jimmy, Tyler, and Lowry, and have Vic coming off the bench for Hero. That would be my ideal lineup, a bigger 4, you know what I mean, and have Jimmy just play the 3. But I mean, beggars can't be choosers, and if we can't get a big 4, Jimmy at the 4 would probably have to be it, because I don't want to put Omer at the 5, and
no Omer slander. No Omer slander, man.
Omer's not ready for that. Well, you did say one thing, and I think maybe Jovic, I'd like to see Jovic at the 4, in the preseason. I just don't want him to get Chetted, Chet Holmgren, I don't think Jovic is big enough yet to play NBA level defense. You know what I mean? Like, that would really worry me.
Yeah, not down low. He can keep up, but he has no lateral quickness right now. That's and the thing is, if you're gonna play, you know how we are, and like Nando made a great point, and that is something that I love Spo, and when he experiments. The only thing I've ever had against Spo, and Bobby can attest to this, I will get frustrated when he will get. Spo typically takes maybe 1, 2, or 3 games at times to do a certain change, an alteration in the lineup. Now, he has the quickest adjustments come halftime. If Spo doesn't see something working in the first half, he's coming out in the second half completely different. Now, I've always been a massive fan of 10-man rotations. I don't like when he goes to the 8 or 9-man, which is rare, but he does it during the season. I know playoff time, the rotation gets really small, really tight, and obviously that is when you're at the peak of fitness and at our sport. That's why he usually perform well all the way to the end. There's really no fatigue. I know last year we were here with injuries, no excuses, but I always was intrigued last year how close we got with the lack of shooting, with the injuries. That's why I'm honest. It doesn't scare me, the squad that we have, because I know the organic improvements that are coming from within. The growth in Hero, the health in Oladipo, because it's not even about growth. Oladipo was an all-NBA defender, all-NBA player. He got hurt. He got 2 surgeries to finally repair, and now he's finally back. And we saw Oladipo come back last year, play the same stellar defense. Obviously, his offensive step was a little bit slower because he's getting his footing back. But I feel that if you unleash him this year, that could go down as the biggest free agent signing for us, where you just unleash him in those second units. It wreaks havoc. And you mentioned shooting. If we don't move Robinson, I do believe we have to try to incorporate him in the lineup, because his shooting. So Robinson didn't forget how to shoot. Shooters go through this sometimes. I understand the secondary options for him. He's actually improving dribble penetration, kicking out. He has a nice give and go game with Bam off the screens. So it's not like he forgot how to play basketball. And what I love is the offseason gives you time to work out of the limelight. I know the Butlers, they post their workouts, Lowry posting his workout, but these guys are working. We didn't see Tyler Hero basically all summer sometimes. And you saw the picture they posted the other day. He looks pretty solid. He probably gained another 10 pounds of muscle just by looking at him. And you're talking about being healthy. Kyle Lowry, at that age, your injuries are going to happen. You can't control that. The only way you can control is putting your body in the best shape possible to withstand those injuries, to play through them. So you have to manage. And Spo's great at that. You have to manage minutes. You have to manage your workload. And like Nando says, and Riley's always said this, he always likes a 20-game sample. After 20 games, you usually know what type of team you have. You can play with certain lineups. I can take those losses early on if you're experimenting with lineups. But I don't fear it, because I believe it last year that we had the most versatile team that we can play winning styles of basketball in 3 different stages. We can outshoot you. We can dribble penetrate. We can do the mid-range, which Butler and Hero can exploit. The way the game is trending, people don't really defend anymore the mid-range. They're either defending the 3 or low post. They're trying to clog the post. So if Bam steps out consistently, because he can shoot it, it's just doing it consistently and Spo's putting him in position, which I love. Spo's always honest with that. And they even asked about not playing Robinson against the Celtics. And he says that he has to put Bam in position to succeed as an offensive weapon because they rely on Bam defensively so much. And the common fan, the casual fan, doesn't see it. But when you dissect the game, you're like, Bam is almost involved in every intricacies of the defense and offense. And he's an offensive initiator without the ball. So I'll go with this one, and we can end our Heat talk with the current roster. Miles Turner intrigues me because it's the concept of when Jimmy first came in, we had Myers Leonard. And when Myers Leonard was playing with Bam, Myers Leonard acted like that pop-up shooter in the top, let Bam operate with the wings and all that. I believe it could work even, and I've said it before, even with an Omer. I know they're not going to do it. But if you do acquire Miles Turner, if you have the option between Miles Turner and Harrison Barnes, I'll throw that one quick at you. What do you go for? What do you think is a better fit, Nando?
I'm going with Harrison Barnes, man, for the reasons I said earlier. Yeah, it to me, I mean, I get the Miles Turner thing, but I like Harrison Barnes, and especially for the fit on this particular team. But I get the Miles Turner stuff. I do.
Alberto seems to love you.
everyone always says
welcome. Thank you for listening, bro.
But yeah, me personally, I'm rolling with Harrison Barnes. I just like him. I like him as a player. I like his championship experience. Like I said, his veteran leadership. I like the different things that he can do.
Very versatile.
Very versatile. I think he fits right in. Like I said, he's won a championship with Golden State. He knows what it takes to get there, and I think he'll fit right in. I think there will be zero issues at all. Where I think you know what you're gonna get from you're getting a pro's pro. With Miles Turner, I think there's question marks on a night-to-night basis. Honestly, there are flashes. Yes, he can shoot the 3. Yeah, he can block shots, but is his motor always going to be there? Is he going to be that? I like the reliability of Harrison Barnes, and I think Harrison Barnes is even a guy that Spoelstra would just love to have, honestly.
Oh, he would love it. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it. And now, before I go to you, Neal, one of my favorite secondary options, but I know it might not be doable, is Colin Sexton. I love Colin Sexton's game for this team. And the way he plays, the way he carries himself, you can tell, like, he has the culture already in him. And it's just, you see certain players. And it's funny now that you say that, because that goes kind of to the fandom. You see every player around the league and you look, and you always wonder, like, will he do good with the Heat? Like, I don't think he's that type of, like, he doesn't seem to be a Heat player. Like, he won't succeed here because some of them not committed, or on the defensive side of the ball, offensively, fluently. Like, I love the charisma and that you can be yourself here because you are Miami. So you are going to be flashy. You're going to be yourself. But at the end of the day, are you serious about the game of basketball? Do you love the game as much as the next one? Neal, I'm going to go with you. You got Barnes and Turner. I know you love Turner, so probably that might be your answer. But if you have them both, you have the trade offers, you're the GM, you're Andy Ellisberg, you're looking at both offers, who do you go for?
I mean, I actually would say Harrison Barnes. The reason I haven't mentioned Harrison Barnes a lot in trade discussions is just I don't know what we would have to give up to get him. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing that worries me. But Harrison Barnes is a great fit for this team. I mean, he is a Heat culture player. He's the kind of guy that is going to work hard, and the Miami Heat isn't for everybody. But Harrison Barnes would really fit this. And I agree with Nando. There wouldn't be any worry about, is he going to bring it every night? The guy can score. His defense isn't bad. He's got championship experience. Harrison Barnes can hit the 3 really well, which is something that we had been missing down the stretch last year, which would really help us out a lot. So I actually would go with Harrison Barnes over Miles Turner in that scenario. But I still think Miles Turner, though, yes, in Indiana, I agree. There probably are some issues about whether or not he brings it every night. Miami has an effect on people. You know what I mean? I think that we're the kind of team that we can bring anybody in and we can get them to work. That obviously failed with Son Whiteside, so maybe that's a point
Feel
against.
miserably. Yes, yes.
But
yes.
I think that Miles Turner could come here and be a consistent character player as well. But I would go Harrison Barnes for sure over Miles Turner.
And when you mention cost, it's funny because Harrison Barnes, I believe he's on the contract only for next year, probably like at 21, 22. So you're looking at any of these trades, any secondary trades involves Duncan. You're looking at Duncan, possibly a first, another asset to make the money work because we can take back, I believe, less money up to a certain percentage. I think 120% or something like that. So it could work financially without you're not giving up major assets, of course. This is not a Durant situation. With Miles Turner, it's just when players like that become available in the aspect that secondary options, for example, the team, you're not their future long-term plan because you just signed. They signed Aiden to an offer sheet. So that right there goes to show you. I mean, I know you're a professional, but if my team signs a player that plays my same position to an offer sheet, you're taking over. I'm out. They're working around to try to move you. And it's funny. He no longer fits there. Kind of like in Sacramento too. Harrison Barnes is the veteran. That team is up and starting. Sabonis is probably like the oldest player closest to Barnes. So that team is up and coming. They're rebuilding also. You got Fox, Sabonis. I don't think they're going to be competitive in the West. So it could happen, man. You never know. So now remember, Hero hasn't signed an extension, but obviously we don't foresee Hero being moved for Barnes or Turner or any of those sorts. I don't want people to misquote us. But to wrap up with the Heat, per se, so we can talk some Miami sports, fandom. East-wise, top five, the realm of the top five in the East, I got, obviously, you got Miami, you got Celtics, you got the Bucks, you got definitely the Nets. And who are my other five? I think that's it, really. But Nets-wise, out of all those teams, I'm going to be honest, Boston really doesn't scare me. They got better, but I feel that we match up well with them. The biggest factor, and I want to talk about this, is the East. And I'll go with Nando quickly. The Nets. I'm intrigued how they're all going to make it work because this is a situation that could go bad quickly. You amended relationships this offseason, but how long does it take? What losing streak does it take? Do you start talking about Nash's job? Like, when is he going to get fired? Is he on the hot seat, et cetera, et cetera? How do you make, and believe it or not, I believe the Nets might be scary because they have the setup almost kind of the pre-Harden trade. When they didn't have to trade LeVert, when they didn't trade Jared Allen, they have a nucleus that is balanced. They got shooting, they got some size, and the number one thing that I want to see is how do you incorporate Sims in that offense? Does Kyrie play off the ball? Do you run a lot of minutes with Simmons when Kyrie's off the bench? So I have the Nets honestly being probably my asterisk of the most surprising team in the East. That take it all. So what do you feel is really? I have Miami top five, top four, no matter what. I do believe we can go as high as 2. A top seed, I won't say this here because a lot of people are sleeping on this. A lot of media talks about the Heat, but when players talk about the Heat, they know we were this close. And we had all these gaps. I understand we lost PJ. We lost defense, but also PJ offensively was limited. Even though we opened up certain things in PJ's game and allowed him to play, we were pretty limited offensively when he was on the court. It was corner shooting. It was part of the design. I understand that. But who do you have? Which team do you have in the East, really, that is your scariest team that could come out of the East?
You want me to go first? Okay. Well, to me, I see the hype about Boston. Obviously, they came out of the East last year. They made it to the finals. They are right now the favorite. And I think, to me, the best team in the East is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think if they had a healthy Chris Middleton last year, the Milwaukee Bucks would have been in the NBA Finals. And I honestly think that the Milwaukee Bucks would have beat Golden State. I mean, when you talk about that team plays excellent defense. They play together. Chris Middleton is a huge complementary piece. Drew Holiday, huge. You've seen it when they got to the finals and you've seen it when they smacked us up. Honestly, I think that's the team to be. If they're fully healthy, I think the Milwaukee Bucks are, to me, the scariest team in the Eastern Conference. Second, I honestly would put, all right, you guys might kill me for this, but I'm putting the Philadelphia 76ers that you didn't mention. Honestly, the reason why I say that is because, to me, I really value glue guys. glue guys as a PJ Tucker, which we saw what he was able to do. Limited offensively, yes, but he did improve on different aspects. He brought it from so many levels that you just need to have a guy like that. You want a guy like that on your team in a 7-game series, no matter what. I think he brings that intensity, that exactly what Philadelphia needs. I think they need to see a guy like that, have a guy like that just get on their asses. And I think that's what he's going to do. So you got Joel Embiid, who's going to have that guy holding him accountable, which is going to make Joel Embiid even better. You have James Harden, who is obviously, is a top player in this league. He's not the same. He's not at that same level. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he can't get back to that level. I'm not going to sit here and say there's no chance in hell that James Harden can't put up 25, 8, and 10 and 8 like on a nightly basis. I think he's highly capable of that if he takes his offseason seriously. Now, he's been posting videos here and there. You never know what to believe, right? Is that for real? Is that just for show? Me personally, I think James Harden still has the juice. So James Harden, Joel Embiid, PJ Tucker. I think right then and there. I forgot the other addition that they made.
Tyrese Maxey.
Yes. Okay. Tyrese Maxey. He's just gonna another year under his belt. That guy is a bucket. I mean, they didn't even want to give him up in all those trade talks. He's gonna get better, and that guy can score the hell out of the ball. I honestly think that the Philadelphia 76ers, because I think adding PJ Tucker means so damn much, and I might be overrating him, but he's just one of my favorite players in this league. I love everything about him. I put Philadelphia second, and then I put Boston third. Adding Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari to that team that already made the NBA Finals, I think that's no joke. Then I would put our Heat and Brooklyn right there between 4 and 5 because of that Ben Simmons situation. I think that honestly makes or breaks them. And the fact that they have to figure that thing out, I think that's where the Heat will step right into the 4th seed.
Neal, what you got, man?
I mean, I have Boston as the number 1 seed. I really like that team a lot. I mean, that team is so balanced. And Milwaukee's the 2nd seed, obviously, just because they're just as balanced. But I just think that, I love Robert Williams. I love what he brings to that team. He's the perfect complement to them. And if Robert Williams can do more, first of all, if Robert Williams' pick and roll game gets better, which it probably will, and if he can just continue that defensive dominance, I mean, that starting lineup has really no weaknesses. I mean, it's solid, and they're just going to wear you out, and they're going to be the best defensive team again. And I mean, it's going to be really hard to beat them. I mean, it could get to the point where you've got to try and limit your turnover, play low turnover basketball, because they will make you pay. And Jason Tatum, he's just taken his game to another level. And he played hurt the entire playoffs. And he was, throwing out those kind of performances, which is amazing to see. Imagine a healthy Jason Tatum in the playoffs with that team playing that level of defense. That's just a scary squad. So then I would have Milwaukee next, just echo Nando's points. It's still the Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Middleton, Giannis, Holiday. Now they've got Brogdon. I mean, they've got a good bench. I mean, they're good coach. That's just a great team. And then as far as 3rd seed, I'd throw Philadelphia out there too. I mean, why not? And here's the thing, and I wholeheartedly agree with Nando about this. That team could be a 1 seed if they get a healthy Joel Embiid, MVP level again, Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid was playing at MVP level last year for sure. And if they get that Joel Embiid with PJ Tucker being there now and a rejuvenated with something to prove James Harden and Tyrese Maxey, who I really wished was a Miami Heat. That's one of the heartbreaking things about Tyrese Maxey is he probably should be a Miami Heat. Okay? The dude is special. He's got open court speed that I haven't seen since John Wall, perhaps. And he can play amazing defense. And he can shoot the ball. The guy is what I wish Tyler Hero was. Straight up. What I wish Tyler Hero was. Philadelphia, if they can put those things together, if those things happen, they could be a 1 seed for sure. And then yeah, I mean you've got us. I would say us is 4 right now, confidently, just because I don't know what's going to happen with Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Kyrie Irving is still there, and who knows what Kyrie Irving they're going to get. You know, I mean they could get the distraction again, and that whole thing could fall apart. But if they were to get a close to Cleveland Kyrie, you know, like mentally, that would probably take them to the 4 seed for sure. But I think right now it's so unclear. Steve Nash still hasn't shown to me that he is a leader of men at this point. I really don't. From an X's and O's perspective, I don't really know what they were last year. Like what really was their offensive philosophy? Nobody knows. I don't
Give it to Durant. Just get out the way.
You know, and so that could definitely hold them back against organized teams like the Heat, Celtics, Bucks, Sixers. So that's why I would put the Nets on 5 by default. Because I mean, there just isn't any other team in the East. I mean, I think Atlanta is going to be better than people think. You know, I like DeJounte Murray. You know, I don't think DeJounte Murray is ever going to be your, like, you know, franchise player. But you've got DeJounte Murray with Trae Young and John Collins. Let's see if Collins can be more than he has been recently. You know, I like Atlanta. I think they're going to be better, but obviously not better than Brooklyn. You know,
no, not at all.
You know, and then after that, I mean, who really is there? You know?
I got Cleveland. Cleveland's going to surprise a lot of people. Cleveland is another year.
That's a really good point.
That's another one.
Point, you know, because you've got Jared Allen, you've got Colin Sexton.
And Chicago. But Chicago, to me, plateaued kind of in – Chicago's going to plateau probably in the 5 to 6 range. Like, I don't think they're going to crack. Like, Chicago at all doesn't scare me at all. I understand you got Levine. You got hopefully a healthier ball. And you have a nice solid squad, but it's nothing that's gonna scare you.
DeMar,
they can extend it to 6-7 games, like in a playoff series, but I don't think they come out. But to what Nando said and what you said, Neal, Tucker's a glue guy. Like he said, Tucker comes in and is that little missing link, that missing piece that you have that unites absolutely everything and makes everything function. He did it with us. Obviously, injuries came, so I understand the situation. And still, to the last game, Tucker, even while hurt, gave you everything you have. So he's going to provide that veteran leadership, that growth. Obviously, hopefully, it lasts to the playoffs for them. So we're not going to discount that. But at the East this year, I'm not going to mention really anything. I'm not going to put a placement for us. Last year, no one had us as a first seed. Things happen. Injuries happen. Combinations happen. Players start stepping up, start flourishing out of nowhere. Well, behind the scenes, you see the progress. But to the common fan, they just see the players step up. So you're going to see progress. So I'm definitely saying top 4, top 5, but I'll probably max out at 2. But I'll wrap it up, and I want to talk about Miami fandom. Now that we have you here today, Nando, you are Miami fan through and throughout. Florida Marlins, Panthers, Hurricanes, everything. We get a bad rap everywhere we go. Everywhere I go, people, when they hear you're from Miami, they give you the, oh, you're from Miami. It's like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I understand when people see us on TV and the national media, think that we're just fair weather fans. But there are some real diehard Miami sports fans that know about their teams, that know about basketball, football. I mean, obviously, Dolphins predominant. There's still some Marlins diehard fans that have been heartbroken. We've been through 2 or 3 fire sales. I'm still a diehard Marlins. We have a nice farm system. We don't talk Marlins that much. You see the progress, but once again, people always look, empty seats. They're like, oh, there goes the Marlins again. Panthers are in the uprise. We've built the right way. We're going to continue rising. So right now, it's probably the most exciting time in a while where all Miami teams, minus the Marlins, getting there, are ready for success. And not only about success, but for example, even the Dolphins, exciting brands of their sport, an exciting brand of football. Us, Heat, we are always seen as the kill you slowly, not sexy, which is why you go for the Durants, you go for everything, you go for those home run acquisitions, free agent signings, etc. People are going to gravitate towards Miami. Also, they gravitate toward the culture, which translates to the culture of who we are as a city. you as a sports fan, what do you love the most about just being all Miami, all 305, and being able to express it? Like, if you're making an advertisement for everybody else, so you can come be a sports fan in Miami, what do you tell them?
Oh man, I mean, hey, this is being a Miami sports fan is just something that I was introduced to from my uncle as a kid growing up. I mean, he's from Miami and he just instilled it like every single sports team. He taught me everything about sports and being there every single summer. We would go to like Dolphins training camps. We would talk about the Marlins. We'd go to a couple Marlins games and things of that sort. And it kind of just it went with me. It went with me since I was a little kid onto now. And it's been rough. It's been a rough, years for me. I mean, I've witnessed the Marlins in '97, and I got to witness that 2003 one. I mean, since that 2003 one, I haven't really seen much as a Miami sports fan. So it's hard for me to rail somebody in. I mean, they're looking at me and they're like, "Damn, like how are you still a Miami sports fan?" But it's just something about it, man. It's just like when you get brought into being a fan from such a young age, I embrace that, man. I just embrace that. Miami is my passion, my favorite sports team, and I know that when that time comes, when I see my Dolphins win a championship, that's gonna feel so damn good, knowing that I've rode it through all these heartaches, all these Adam Gase coaches, all these damn quarterbacks that we've had, Dante Culpepper, Jay Fiedler, all these people, you name it. It's gonna feel so damn good when it does happen, and nothing excites me more than to just stick it through the bad, just ride it out. Good things are to come. And like you said, now we're on the come up, man. And it feels so damn good. But obviously the job still has to get done at the end of the day. Like you have to hoist up some championships. I'm grateful for the Heat though. And Pat Riley, I mean, he's been awesome. I didn't mention them there. Do you see what I mean? Because the standard's so high with
the standard's so high. You don't even think about it. It's exactly. Just a second nature.
Like it's a given. The Marlins, man, it's been rough, but I'm glad that we have Sandy Alcantara there balling out. I mean, he's a Cy Young candidate. He's probably going to win the Cy Young. That's something that's entertaining to watch. Jazz Chisholm is electric.
And you got a lot of people on the farm. You got Yuri Perez. You got a lot of people coming up. Luis Diaz. True. You have a lot of people, and you're making moves now. But once again, they always seem to be in the backtrack. Like you see it. Like I'm not one of those casual fans that you just want success. Kind of like you just want a trade for a trade to happen, so you can see movement. You see the build, but what you said is true, man. Like it's so agonizing. You just want to be as successful for the city, for you, for your tradition, man.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I'm gonna put up. Alberto has another comment for you. Oh, those years of flops. That's why I hope the Dolphins can. Thank you for listening, Alberto. Thank you for tuning in, brother.
That's that. I love it, man. Hey, but no, honestly, man, to me, I just want to witness one championship from each of my teams, right, in my lifetime. That's all I want to witness. I saw the Marlins one, so I'm okay. At least I have a vision. At least I know the team is trying to be competitive. We got a young Dominican Cy Young winner about to be in Sandy. That's good enough for me. I like that. The Miami Heat, they've exceeded expectations. Like I love the Miami Heat forever. Like thank you so much. But the sport I love the most is football, man. And I just need that Dolphins championship. That's all I want. One, I can suffer for 40 years after that. Just please, just give me just one. Just one. That's all I want. And that's all I want, man. That's it.
I'm sure our whole network shares your feelings from Bobby, Evan, Hank, everybody.
Just one.
And Neal, you from afar. I mean, Neal's a Miami boy, but now he's a little further west. Sorry. How do you feel? What does it feel to you? Especially, this is a good perspective, actually. How do you feel being a Miami diehard sports fan, like on another part of the globe?
I'll say this. I lived in Miami from 7 to 12, but my whole family's Cuban. So I mean, Miami is just in my blood. And the one thing I can say about Miami sports fans is it's something that is passed down. You know what I mean? Good or bad, Miami fans are loyal. I thought we got a bad rap when we, Game 6 NBA Finals, when there was 5 seconds left and fans were leaving. I thought we got a really bad rap because that happens at every stadium.
They exploited us, yeah.
And that's not symbolic of what our fan base actually is like. They weren't leaving because they didn't care about the team. You know, they were leaving because that's just what fans do when the game's over. You know, and nobody can say that Ray Allen was going to make that shot. Okay, nobody can. I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I watched it. I mean, I wasn't there, but
Norris Cole still jumping.
I watched it afterwards, you know, like everybody else did. And I'm in San Antonio, so I ended up running outside and tell them all to fuck off. But like, I'll say this, I will say this about the Miami Dolphins and just Miami in general. I think Miami is a football town. The Heat have done their best to try to take the mantle and turn us into a basketball town, but we will always be a football town. And I think the most diehard Miami fans remember the Florida Marlins. You know, they don't, the Miami Marlins, I never really caught on to the Miami Marlins because for me, they died when the Florida Marlins left. And that's just me.
Oh.
I don't know if everybody feels that way, but, it's a lot of pain came when the Florida Marlins left and how they dismantled those teams. That 2003 team, that was a travesty the way it was dismantled. That team was too good to let go the way it was, just cheap ownership. And, what can you do as a fan? You just watch the owner just completely ruin one of the best things ever assembled. I mean,
again.
The best pitching I think I've ever seen. The hitting was great. I mean, to let Cabrera go. I mean, it's just
that's still one of the worst trades in MLB history. Still one of the worst trades ever.
There, so I couldn't follow the Miami Marlins, because I said, you know what, it's done. Like, I'm going to let it go. But I will say this about the Dolphins, and I know a lot of Miami fans are like this. Just thinking about the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl, I get emotional. Like, just in my head, imagining the aqua and orange confetti falling down and Tua or whoever our quarterback is, holding the Lombardi trophy and just watching them celebrate in whatever stadium it's in. When I dream about that moment, when I think about that moment, it's like, wow, like that's probably the second best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. And the first thing would only be the birth of my son. Like the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl could only come second to the birth of my son. That's it. You know what I mean?
You know why I said, Neal, when you mentioned that? Because Miami, the Heat, obviously are our generation. Kind of your 30s, 40s team. You saw the build, you saw it. The importance of the Dolphins winning a championship is that it's really the franchise that ties down grandfathers, fathers, sons. So there you have a celebration from witnessing the 70s, the glory days of the 80s with Marino, and now the 20s, which kind of sounds crazy to say, the 2020 success. So there you have 3 generations of sports fans culminating in one moment. That's going to be I know we have a parade when he comes.
I feel there are going to be grandsons going to their grandfather's tombstones.
Yes.
The radio playing the Super Bowl for their grandfather to hear.
That's bro. That's
like that is how important the Miami Dolphins are to the city of Miami. I mean, the Dolphins have been, and we have been 20 years of just almost, but not good enough.
Yeah.
And there's been some horrible. Yet the fans still will fight. I think we have the most active Twitter of all time.
Yeah, on both ends. On both ends.
And
some toxic Twitter.
Unrealistic. They're ridiculous. But I mean, I've never seen a fan base's Twitter so involved in a football team like I do with the Dolphins. We make things trend that shouldn't be trending. It's crazy.
Just because it's Miami.
Has to talk about us all the time, and they have to hate, but they still talk about us because we're such a big fan base, So I think that the one word that I can sum up, and I'll leave it at that, is just loyal. The Miami Dolphins fan base is loyal, and I'm hopeful that they'll finally get what they can deserve.
Hey, man. And Neal, you wrapped it up perfectly there. And I'll wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, liking, subscribing, sharing. Like I always say, anything you want to talk about, DM us, DM the network, DM Bobby. If we can get you on air, we'll get you on air too as a guest. And I want to thank not only Neal, welcome back, brother. Love you, man. Missed you. And Nando, thank you so much for being on. Any last words, man, that you want to say to Miami?
Listen, let's go Dolphins. Let's go Tua. Let's go Heat. Let's go Miami sports and all. And honestly, thank you guys. Love the work you guys do, and thank you guys for making me a part of the show today. I had a blast with you guys. Always good, man. Chopping it up, Miami sports, man. That's what it's all about. Like Neal said, loyal. That's what we are, and that's what we always will be, man.
Oh, I can't say anything else. You wrapped it up best. See you next Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Enjoy Miami. Love you.